Avi Loeb had no idea what Bluebeam was, and you're going to find that out in this interview now. But first off, I just want to give a shout out to Interstellar Discussion for setting up this interview and inviting me to join this one on the Mark Christopher Lee having to pull out of it. So I got third place. I am going to repay the favour and give him the opportunity to come and interview Patrick Jackson in a couple of weeks. So that'll be great to have him on there. And that is it. Make sure you give Interstellar Discussion a follow. UFO Shiv also joined us. Give him a follow. Show the love. Interstellar Discussion is on YouTube. He's also on TikTok. He's also on X. Under that name, you'll find him. This is his profile picture. Enjoy the interview, guys. Enjoy.
A stellar object, 3I Atlas, in the plane of the inner planets around the sun. But that actually allows it to pass very close to Jupiter, Mars, and Venus. Now, that is not a trivial fact because these objects are moving around the sun. Okay, so if you just randomly pick an arrival time of 3I Atlas to the inner solar system, only 1 in 20,000 arrival times will end up bringing it as close as it will get. So it's an extremely fine-tuned arrival time because it comes very close to all three of them. And so you put all of this together, you say, okay, well, that's quite unusual. Then it comes close to the sun, the closest, it's called perihelion, the closest point to the sun, occurs when the Earth is on the opposite side. We won't be able to observe it. The sun will basically be between us and the object. Perhaps that's for a reason, who knows? And then moreover, and by the way, this is the point in time when it can do a maneuver, taking advantage of the sun's gravity. That's the reason it's being used by our own spacecraft when we want to provide them with a thrust. It's the best point, is closest to the sun. And also it came from a special direction in the sky, you know, the center of the Milky Way galaxy where there are lots of stars. And that makes it difficult to see an incoming object because you would mistake it for a star. So, you know, I suggested a new scale for risks from interstellar objects similar to the Richter scale that we have for earthquakes, you know, where 0 would be a comet or an asteroid that are definitely natural in origin. You can tell that because you see the cometary tail, just like Borisov was. That's a 0. On my scale, I call it the Loeb scale.
Nice.
10 on that scale would be an object that is definitely maneuvering in ways that indicate some propulsion system, an engine. An object that has perhaps artificial lights, that has an unusual shape. That would be 10. Now, of course, if we find an object that becomes a 10, you know, it can start at close to 0. Astronomers like to call anything in the sky that from interstellar space a comet. But they always, like with Oumuamua, they called it a comet until there was no gas or dust around it. Definitely nothing that we can see.
Yeah.
So, you know, we start with a 0, and then as we get more data, it ends up in a 10. Then there should be policymakers deciding how to respond to the threat, because it's just like having, you know, a visitor to your backyard. It's very different from getting a radio signal. That's the scenario in Contact, you know, the film.
Yeah.
Where you have, well, unless there are wormholes, you know, you have, it took the signal thousands of years to arrive to us from a distant star. You know, you don't need to rush to respond to it. You can take your time. They will not come here anytime soon. But with a visitor in your backyard, you have to immediately decide what the intent is because it's next to you.
Yeah.
So that's a very different scenario. And policymakers will have to decide. Then there should be psychologists deciding how to convey the information to the public without creating panic. And because, you know, the stock market may crash, economies will melt down, and that would have a huge impact on our future, even if they're peaceful. You know, like if someone visits us, even with peaceful intentions, it will change our perspective. It will change, I hope, for the better. We would realize that we are all in the same boat. Sort of like a messianic message of bringing peace to Earth, just because it makes no sense for us to fight each other in this sandbox, you know, on this rock. If there is something else out there, like we are all part of the same team, why are we fighting each other? You know, that makes no sense. That's my hope, that's the kind of message, messianic message that it could bring. But who knows how people were. At any event, this, I think, is we worry a lot about existential threats from artificial intelligence. We talk about it from global climate change, from an asteroid impact. Just a piece of rock colliding with Earth, which is, by the way, the reason that we discovered Oumuamua or this one is because the U.S. Congress tasked NASA to find all near-Earth objects that are bigger than a football field. So we worry about these risks, but I'm saying we should also include in the list alien tech, because that would be very different than a rock. It's something that arrives at the inner solar system for a reason. It's not by random coincidence. And even if rocks of 20 kilometers are extremely unlikely to make it in 10,000 years, a designed spacecraft of 20 kilometers, even if it's the only one around, within a large volume, can still make it to the inner solar system if it has a reason. And that was the narrative of Rendezvous with Rama, this science fiction story by Arthur C. Clarke. So are we dealing with Rama? Because in the storyline, it was a cylinder that is 20 kilometers in diameter and 50 kilometers long, roughly the dimensions that I was mentioning for 3I Atlas.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing I want to ask as well. It's like just to kind of clear it up a little bit, because I know loads of news stations and people reporting on a story are shouting out that, you said that this is a hostile craft.
I did not say. They said
that. Yeah, this is what I've been saying. Right. So
this is really interesting because it also happened to me with Oumuamua. I say one thing. Now I actually write everything on medium.com. You can check it. It's anything. If you look at all the podcasts that I had about 3I Atlas, all the writings that I have on medium.com, you will see the truth. Okay, that's what I say. I don't say anything else. Then what happens is reporters want to get a lot of clicks. So then they distort the message. Now, when they distort the message, this is an unstable situation, because when they distort the message, then some people become haters and say, how dare he say what you are saying he said? And so they make it even worse, because they say, Avi said this. And then they start making statements about me that are even personal, like related to my Jewish identity. Like there was a video on YouTube that actually attacked me on that. So you see anti-Semitism that has nothing to do with it. I see conspiracy theories, people who say, I said that in order to deflect attention from the Jeffrey Epstein story. Now, what I tried to clarify, this was in a podcast where the interviewer asked me, one out of maybe several tens that I had last week. And I said to the podcaster, I said, look, this is in the sky. You can buy a 0.5 meter telescope on Amazon. Just place the order, look at the telescope, and you will see this object. What are you talking? How can this be conspiracy? Like, what are you talking about?
It's up there.
Astronomers are. You can just look at the sky. This is not an invention. And moreover, this object is moving at 60 kilometers per second. Okay, twice as fast as the biggest rockets that we ever built. So even if you take Starship, put all the fuel you want into it, launch it, it will not reach that speed. I cannot invent such a thing. I cannot invent it for the purpose of distracting people from the Jeffrey Epstein files. Now, this object also was moving probably more than 72 years in space, because it takes millions, billions of years if it came from another star. Okay, definitely more, very likely more than 72 years, the time that elapsed since the birth of Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, so it has nothing. The fact that this object is moving has nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. So this is an example of human thinking. Now, what I thought after hearing that question is, there is one solution to Fermi's paradox. Fermi asked, where is everybody? And one possible solution is, they look at us and see all these conspiracy theories and all this nonsense being said on social media, and they say, they are not worth our attention. And that's the reason we say, where is everybody? Well, you're not that attractive. Come on. The way
probably look at us from a distance and go, oh. Yeah, that's crazy. Oh, mate, thank you so much for clarifying. I think that was a major important question at the start of this to kind of get out there, because I feel like a lot of it's just kind of snowballed out of control.
Oh yeah, so it's unstable. You see, so reporters are saying it nonsense. People respond to the nonsense, assign it to me, and then they keep arguing with each other. I have nothing to do with it. I don't have any footprint on social media. Just read the source. You see that? Read what I say on Medium.com. See what I say on podcasts like our discussion here, and that is what I'm saying actually.
Right. Matt or Shiv, is there anything you'd like to ask Mr. Lee?
Nice to speak to you, Javier. Thank you for coming on. What data, if any, of this will be made open access, and how can the public engage with this?
So you mean with the data?
Yeah. Is it like how can independent researchers, universities, or even citizen scientists get involved with this and the study of this?
Okay, so in principle, you can even observe the object yourself. If you, as I said, just go to Amazon, buy a 0.5 meter telescope, you will see it. And you can observe it. You know, it's in the sky, moving towards us right now.
I believe you. I'm not saying you're wrong.
My point is, you don't need to believe me. That's my point. You know, science is better than politics. Let me reiterate that.
Do you know what's interesting?
In science, it's not about me convincing you like it is in politics. It has nothing to do with me convincing you. You can just check it. Okay? You yourself can check it. You don't need to believe me anything I say about this object. You will see how it's moving. And as it comes closer to the sun, you will see that it comes closer to the sun and passes along the path that scientists like myself are predicting for it. So on October 29th, just mark your calendar, that's when it will be closest to the sun. We would be on the opposite side. You wouldn't be able to see it because it's behind the sun. But before the 1st of October, you could see it. And after October 31st, you would see it. In fact, it will be closest to Earth in December, just because Earth will come back to be closer to it around the sun. The interesting question is whether in the coming weeks and months, as it gets closer to the sun, it actually outgases just like a comet, like Borisov was, and you can see beautiful cometary tail. If it looks like a comet, it's a comet. Okay, that's what we all need to remember. If it shows some unusual features, then take your vacation before October 29. That would be my advice. Actually, someone texted me about. He said that he's trading options in the stock market with an expiration date of October 29th, just in case this object will turn out to be technological.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, October 29th, mate, tinfoil hats, sell them on Amazon, I tell you, that'll be the day.
That's my son's birthday.
But with respect to the existing data, you can find it in scientific papers. I wrote 4 scientific papers on 3i Atlas over the past month. And it's all out there. You know, anyone can access those papers. Anyone can see the data. The best, the most systematic data will come from the Rubin Observatory. In fact, they found that it was observing it before the Atlas telescope discovered it. The interesting thing is Atlas is a 0.5 meter telescope. As I said, you can buy a 0.5 meter. It's a 0.5 meter survey telescope. Discovered it in June. And that's just around the time when the Rubin Observatory, which is an 8.4 meter telescope, you cannot buy it on Amazon. Okay, 8.4 meters, you have to do yourself. That it came online around the same time, and they are both in Chile, next to each other. And of course, the Rubin team went back in time, like earlier in June, because they collected data already back then and found it. They found it in the data. It was already in their data, but they they just started the operation of Rubin.
Yeah.
So anyway, the data is out. The data will get better with time. And we should all ask the question, does it look like a comet? If yes, then that's a comet. And it's natural. Yeah, in that case.
There's one thing I want to ask, because I know Anna Paulina Luna in America, she put out something to kind of press NASA on the probability of pushing Juno spacecraft. What's the probability of that actually taking place?
Well, let me explain how this came about. I wrote a scientific paper with 2 collaborators, Adam Hibberd and Adam Crowell, and I posted it on the archive, the preprint server, on Monday last week. So that's, when was it? The 27th of July or so, 28th of July. Submitted it for publication. In this paper, I suggested using the Juno spacecraft that is in orbit around Jupiter. By the way, it's called Juno because that was the name of the wife of Jupiter in Roman mythology. And I said, actually, this mission was supposed to end in September, mid-September 2025. Okay, just in a month and a half. And they were supposed to apply a thrust to it such that it will plunge into Jupiter's atmosphere and burn up. Okay, that was the plan. I said, don't do that. Apply some thrust in the opposite direction, away from Jupiter. And if that thrust is done at the right time, on the 9th of September, with a magnitude of 2.6 kilometers per second, that's the delta V, the velocity kick, then it would intercept the trajectory of 3I Atlas on March 14th, 2026. So it's a way of rejuvenating the scientific mission of Juno. And moreover, it will be much less, it's impossible for us to send a rocket from Earth that will intercept 3I Atlas because it's moving too fast, it's too late. If we knew about it a year in advance, we could have planned it. So a day later, after the paper appeared, I get a phone call from Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. She wanted to know more about 3I Atlas, and I told her about this idea of using Juno. And I said, and she said, I'll be happy to support it in a letter. And I said, Amazing. Thank you so much. And then 2 days later, the letter was sent to NASA's administrator, Duffy, and hopefully the leadership of NASA is looking into that. Now, my recommendation, I don't know how much fuel, how much propellant is left in Juno, because they stopped the engine in 2016. What happened was they were supposed to continue to use the engine and grind the orbit of Juno such that it gets close to Jupiter, and that would have been best for the science that they wanted to accomplish. But then 2 valves in that engine operated on a time scale of order minutes instead of seconds, and they were worried, so they stopped the engine, and Juno remained on an elliptic orbit around Jupiter since 2016 because they didn't use the engine. And so I don't know how much fuel, how much propellant is left, and I hope that NASA will look into that, and given that, maybe make the decision to fire the engine, even though they haven't used the engine since 2016. Let's just use it one more time and see how far we can get. So we calculated actually yesterday. We calculated how close will Juno get to 3I Atlas as a function of the mass of the propellant that it has left. And that would be an amazing thing. You know, it's like a script for a Stanley Kubrick film, you know, 2001 Odyssey. We are talking about 2025 Odyssey. You know, like this would be an amazing thing. It's also an opportunity of public outreach by NASA. I think they should look into that. You know, in the worst case, if you can't fire the engine, even looking at the 3I Atlas from the existing location, and for that one needs to extend the mission lifespan by 6 months. I'm very much in favor of that. 6 months is equivalent to $15 million. That's nothing for space missions, you know. So this is how it came about. It's, you know, Representative Luna showed brilliance in attending to a scientific matter after we spoke, and I'm very appreciative and of her help in terms of sending the letter. My hope is other people in Congress might do the same.
Yeah.
And NASA's leadership will look into that. That's my hope.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, it's like even if it's not an alien spacecraft, but to have the invaluable information we could gather from this should be like fuel on itself. Can you tell us what sort of information?
On that, I just wanted to add a footnote, which is even if it's not technological, so in the future, if there is an interstellar object, even if it's a rock, it would be of great value to bring back a sample from that rock, because we did it with an asteroid called Bennu in the solar system. There was 120 grams from the surface of that asteroid that was brought back to
Yeah, hang on, let me mute Shiv quick. Yeah, go on.
That were brought back to Earth. And then it was analyzed in laboratories over the past half a year. And it was found that this asteroid Bennu had all the most of the amino acids that are used in DNA, RNA, in life as we know it. And what I would like to know is if you bring a sample of, let's say, 120 grams from an interstellar object, even if it's a rock, does it contain the building blocks of life as we know it, or maybe life as we don't know it? Now, this is a completely different approach to astrobiology, learning about life around other stars, not by observing them remotely with telescopes at a distance, like we are planning, or the astronomy community is planning to do, but actually getting material that can tell us what's going on out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for answering that question, mate. I appreciate it. Guys, is there anything else you want to ask Ms. Lee?
I really want to ask Avi about Beatrice's findings and these that are under peer review at the minute, that we've potentially got thousands of these objects around us. So why are we worried about one object that's heading towards us potentially when they're here already? And there's thousands of them.
You are talking about data from more than 50 years ago.
And they're probably still here now, right?
Well, if they are now, we have much better equipment that we can look at them. Okay, you don't need that data. So that there is a different approach to this subject, which is to say, let's build observatories that monitor the sky and look for unusual objects. This project, this initiative is called the Galileo Project. That's what I'm leading. Looking right now with the much better sensors that we have, with artificial intelligence software, to find the objects that you are suggesting. It's not saying these objects were observed 50 years ago, okay, they exist. No, if they exist, we should be able to find them. Now, what's the problem with using past data? Because back then, technologies were not great, and you always have to ask, could it be an artifact? Now, the argument in the paper is that could be an artifact of the photographic plates. What I'm saying is something smudge or some kind of feature on the photographic plate that appears because of the photographic plate. Nothing to do with the sky, okay? That's a possibility. How can we check? We cannot check because this is from 50 years ago. You don't know what happened. Why is this smudge on the photographic plate? Maybe there was a defect. Maybe there was. So the argument in that paper is, yes, we cannot check, but we looked at the shadow of the Earth, and we looked at the side that faces the sun, the day side and the night side. And things that are at the shadow of the Earth, these things do not show up. They show up only on the side of the sun. So as far as I'm concerned, the question is, could there be some systematic artifact, something on the photographic plate that when you look at the side that faces the sun, it appears, and when you look at the side that doesn't face the sun, it doesn't appear because there is much less light. Okay? That's a possibility that needs to be addressed. The fact that you see something on a photographic plate doesn't mean that there is an object in the sky. It means there is something on the photographic plate. Okay? So that's the fundamental question. Now, why is this issue not an issue today? Because if there is something in the sky, we can observe it again and again and again, and we don't need to rely on other people telling us stories from a long time ago. Okay? So that to me is the approach of science where you can verify the data.
And do you know if they've done that? Do you know if they've actually tried this?
Sorry?
Do you know if they've actually tried it with the modern photographs now and stuff like that? I know this is from 1950.
Who are you saying? Who are you referring to as they tried it?
Beatrice.
So which data are you talking about?
I'm on about the one from the 1950s to 1959. But you said, like, can we use ones in in the modern times? Do you know if they've actually done anything on that?
Well, what I'm saying is the Galileo Project is building observatories to collect new data. I know that Beatrice is involved in some other observatory trying to collect new data, but when you talk about data from 50 years ago or more, like 100 years ago, whatever, from the past, you have to always worry about whether that's an artifact or real, okay? But when you collect new data, you don't need to worry about it because you collect the data right now and you know exactly your instruments. And if you use multiple instruments and they all see the same thing, they cannot, that cannot be an artifact of one instrument. So just to give you an example, the Galileo Project observatories that we are building for 4 years, okay? We now have 3 of them, one in Massachusetts, another one that we just assembled in Pennsylvania, and the third one in Nevada. They will eventually have 3 components in each of them, looking in the entire sky all the time. And these 3 components, first of all, will verify that there is an object in the sky because all 3 of them are seeing it. But moreover, because all 3 of them are seeing it, you can figure out the distance of this object. So you can tell how fast it's moving. Is it an airplane? Is it a satellite? You see, the difference between science and storytelling is that storytelling is about telling you something that you cannot verify. Science is about checking it yourself. I'm trying to explain that again and again, that if you buy a 0.5 meter telescope, you can see the sky. If you build observatories, you can see these objects that you're talking about. You don't need to rely on stories. Stories are not evidence. People can tell you stories. I mean, we know about car accidents where different people that witness them tell you different stories. Who do you believe? I visited Washington, D.C., just to give you an example about stories. One day, I meet with the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office in the Pentagon. They talk about unidentified anomalous phenomena as if all the reports that they looked at can be explained by human-made objects. That's what I said. Do you see anything unusual? Was there any object that you couldn't explain? They said no. Only a few reports by FBI agents. That's it. And they were verbal, not. So they tell me they looked at hundreds of events and couldn't see anything. The following day, I go to brief the Congress, the US Congress. The following day, just one day after, I sit on a table. Next to me, there is a person named Eric Davis. And he says the US government is currently in possession of 12 spacecraft that were retrieved in crash sites. And there are 4 types of aliens, pilots, that were found. Okay? That's what he's saying. Who should I believe? These are entirely incompatible narratives. One saying there is nothing coming from the Pentagon, the other one coming from Eric Davis sitting next to me saying, not only that, there are 4 types of pilots that were recovered. Who should I believe? Now, that is the weakness of storytelling. If someone tells you stories, you just need to decide if you believe the story or not. Anything to do with the past is storytelling, okay? If, on the other hand, you follow the method of science, it's not about stories from the past, it's about finding the evidence to test these stories, okay? So when you tell me that something happened 50 years ago, I cannot verify that. But when I tell you that I collected data and used AI to analyze it, and I see it tomorrow and I see it the day after tomorrow, and I can show you the data, then you can't shove it under the carpet. This data is real. I'm getting it right now.
Yeah, because that's from my personal opinion and aspect is like there's a lot of like trust me situations without having physical evidence, and I feel like we need to start at mass peddling more of the information gathering aspect.
Let me put it in a different way. Suppose Eric Davis is not hallucinating; he actually knows something that is real. I want to see it. Okay, I will not believe it until I don't care how attractive is the story. I want to see the materials that he talks about, the 4 types of, 4 species of aliens that otherwise there are lots of people in mental institutions that are claiming that they are Napoleon. Lots of people. I can introduce you to some of them, and they will tell you that they're 100% convinced that they're Napoleon. We all know that there was only one Napoleon, and it's not them, because Napoleon died already. Okay? Now, on social media, you can see the same thing. People claiming this and that. no basis. Storytelling is very common. How do we tell which story is right? That was a theme throughout human history. There were lots of stories that turned out to be wrong. How did we figure it out? The story that we are at the center of the universe. How did we figure, the Vatican was 100% convinced that we are at the center of the universe. Not only that, they would put Galileo in house arrest because he said, but then 350 years after that, they admitted that they were wrong. Why? Because there was so much evidence collected by telescope at the time. Right now, there are spacecraft that look at the Earth, see the Earth moving around the sun right now. So it would be foolish for the Vatican to still argue that we are this. So that's my point, that if you collect right now with the best instruments we have, new data, you can tell which story is right. Otherwise, it's just, it could be fairy tales.
Yeah,
Can I... Sorry, go on, Chef.
Sorry. So I watched the live stream when Eric David was talking, and you had a smirk on your face. Was it because you never believed him, or you found it funny? And the second question is, what's the difference between Oumuamua and this new asteroid? What's the key differences you've observed them both?
So first, with respect to your first question, it's exactly what I just said. I would like to see the evidence before I believe it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just telling me that it exists is not enough. Now, it may well exist, but once I see it, I will be convinced, of course, and I will be glad to help whoever has the evidence to help with the interpretation. But I haven't seen it yet. So as a result, I cannot just tell you that I buy it or I believe it. And then Oumuamua was very different than 3I Atlas in the sense that it was roughly 100 meters in size, much fainter than because the other one would have to be 20 kilometers to give us the brightness that we detected. Moreover, Oumuamua changed its brightness every 8 hours as it was spinning. It changed its brightness by a factor of 10. And that meant that it has a very extreme shape. The area in the sky that we see reflecting sunlight changed by at least a factor of 10. So an analysis of the variation implied that it's flat, that the shape is flat, disc-like. Okay, that's very unusual. And just keep in mind, if you have a piece of paper tumbling in the wind, okay, the chance of you seeing it exactly edge on is practically zero. You would see it always sideways. So it would look in projection, it would look like a cigar. Or if you see a piece of paper in projection, and that's the depiction that the artist initially made of Oumuamua, as if it's a cigar. That as it's spinning, you see the long part of the cigar, and then when it's pointed at you, you see the smaller version of it. But it's not it's most likely at the 92% level after detailed analysis, it was inferred to be flat, pancake-like. And then it was pushed away from the sun by some mysterious force without showing any cometary evaporation. Definitely not a comet of the type that we've seen. And then, so this makes it anomalous on a completely different grounds. Like the argument is very different. In the case of 3I Atlas, it's mainly the thing that made it anomalous for me is the trajectory, mainly the trajectory, because I could imagine that maybe it's a nucleus of less than a kilometer surrounded by a lot of dust. But why did it pick this very special ecliptic plane where the planets are that's 1 in 500 chance? Why would it do that? And it's coming in the opposite direction of the Earth's motion around the sun, so we can't launch any rockets that would intercept it, and it's coming closest when it's on the opposite side of the sun, so we can't see it, and then it's coming so close to the other planets. So I'm just saying, let's keep monitoring it. Turns out to be a comet, then it's a comet with an extremely fine-tuned trajectory. Okay, so it's possible that rare things happen. That's possible, but let's see.
Yeah. Can I ask you a cheeky question?
Yes.
Right. So, have you seen any private or classified data about 3I Atlas that made you think twice about its nature? Anything that you've possibly seen?
No, there is no classified. I mean, it's all open data that astronomers share. It was discovered by a small telescope, and amateur astronomers actually helped in the discovery. They noticed there's something moving. There was no monitoring of the that part of the sky on the 1st of July by any government related people, you know, and it was scientists and amateur astronomers. So even, you know, these were not necessarily even professional astronomers. There were even amateur astronomers involved in noticing something moving. And so that tells you it's a completely grassroots kind of a discovery. Now with the Rubin Observatory, you know, it will be much better organized because the data is coming from a huge camera, 3.2 gigapixel camera that is observing the southern sky every 4 nights. So a lot of astronomers, including the team of the Rubin Observatory, will keep going through the data. I think that also government agencies will look through the data because there might be some classified information there, you know, about satellites. So that is different. But with the 3i Atlas, it was a complete grassroots kind of discovery. And you can speak with the people who found it, you know, like these amateur astronomers.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Would you be up for answering a few questions from the audience that are watching right now? Guys, if you've got any questions, please put them in chat and we can put them forward to Mr. Loeb, Mr. Lieb, sorry, and see what he's got to say. But guys, have you got anything that you want to ask as well whilst we wait for questions to come in?
Some of the comments are asking, can you please ask him about the boogosphere and his opinions on that?
Sorry, about what?
The boogosphere.
Oh, you know, I didn't study this, so I can't say anything. To me, the fundamental question is whether it's human-made, manufactured. You know, just like there were these structures that were put in the desert. You know, I forgot the exact time, and it looked like it's human-made, and someone put it. By the way, it's really easy to tell if an object came from outside of Earth rather than constructed by some artists here on Earth, because you can check the isotopes, the composition of the object, and if the isotopic composition appears to be different than solar system materials, you know, like there is a range of values for some isotopes. If it happens to be outside, then I would say, oh, that's extremely unlikely. But if it's all identical to the range you find on Earth, you know, anyone in South America that played with the materials and made this object, they didn't have a nuclear laboratory to play with the nuclear isotopes. So this is easy to check. You just check the composition of the isotopic composition of the object, and you know, not just relying on a specific isotope, but doing it across the board for all the isotopes. It would be extremely costly for any artist to play with all the isotopes that may exist in this object. And until someone shows that indeed the isotopic composition deviates from solar system materials, you know, for all the isotopes, I would not believe it.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's quite a few people asking, why don't we use James Webb Telescope?
Oh yeah, we did. Actually, it was, but it would be a fantastic tool because it can detect not only the reflection of sunlight from 3i Atlas, but also it could detect the heat emitted by the object. And so definitely, and it can also pinpoint, because it's located 1.5 million kilometers away from Earth. It's in the Lagrange 2 point. That's where the Webb telescope is, looking at the object from a different direction than the terrestrial telescopes. Because of that, we can pinpoint the location. It's again in parallax, the triangulation that also the Galileo Project will be using. So we will be able to tell if there is any non-gravitational acceleration, propulsion, or some push as a result of the rocket effect on a comet. We should be able to pinpoint that very well once we have all the data from the Webb telescope and from ground-based telescope. You see, my biggest fear is that we won't take advantage of all the telescopes we have, because people will conclude we already know the nature of this object. So my hope is that because I brought up this possible technological origin, that people will try to prove it wrong by looking for the signatures of a comet, let's say, and then realize that it looks weird, and then they will not be able to shove the data the anomalies under the carpet of conventional thinking. If the Vatican, instead of putting Galileo in a house arrest, if the Vatican would say, let's prove Galileo wrong by looking through telescopes. If they were to do that, it would take them much less than 350 years to get to the same conclusion. They would say, okay, let's prove him wrong, and then, wait a minute, what he's saying is correct. So, So as a scientist, I really wish to have as much data as possible. That's the difference between science, where you want as much data as possible, to conspiracy theories, or if you want the influencers on social media. For them, it would be much better if there will be less data. Why? Because nothing will prove them wrong. So that's the distinction between believing in a conspiracy and doing science. As you bring more data to the table, the scientists will be enormously grateful and happy about it. A genuine scientist. I mean, there are some scientists that don't want data because they have their pet theory. That's like, for example, there was a pet theory that definitely the COVID-19 virus came from the wet market. Okay, that was the pet theory of many scientists. They didn't want to hear the alternative, that it may have come from the Wuhan Virology Institute that studied SARS viruses, and they didn't want to hear that. So, if you have a pet theory that you are connected to, obviously you prefer not to have more data because you don't want it to be proven wrong. But what I'm saying, a genuine, curious scientist wants as much data as possible, irrespective of the conjecture. Okay, irrespective, you want as much data as possible. Whereas a conspiracy theorist or an influencer on social media doesn't want as much data as possible. So if you wanted to tell whether your friend belongs to one or the other, just do this test and ask them, if I get you more data, what would you be happier or not? And if they tell you, you know what, I don't know, because who got this data? I'm not sure I believe that person who got it. No, that's not a good. You yourself is going to Amazon and you will buy a 0.5 meter telescope. There is no other person who gets the data. You will observe the sky. You need to want to get the data in order to prove that you really care about the truth. Okay? That's the only thing that will show that you really care about the truth, that you yourself will do the investigation and figure out the truth. If you don't want to do the investigation, if you just want to have your opinion and you don't want it to be invalidated by getting the data, then you're not taking the scientific method. You're a conspiracy theorist. That's the distinction.
So obviously our chat and everyone watching right now, we have also like people into space and the data, and we also have people that are into a bit of the conspiracy side as well. So we want to ask, well, quite a lot of people are asking, do you think the narrative that's being pushed via the media, is this to do with a conspiracy called Project Bluebeam? What is your thoughts on the situation?
Can you clarify? Because I'm not familiar. What is the Project Bluebeam?
So I'll let Shiv, do you guys want to explain it?
Project Bluebeam?
So, yeah, basically
it's you'll do better than
Matt, you explain it.
Yeah.
Basically, they're going to stage a fake alien second coming to put the world under a new world order.
Sorry, who are they? Kind of stuff. Who are they? When you say they, it doesn't mean.
Well, this is the thing. We don't really know. The gatekeepers of everything. The people that want it could be Illuminati. It could be anybody. But they say that they can project these things into the sky. They're going to make it look like this is what Jeremy Corbell said, that in 2027 he gave a date. He gave a date.
Project what?
Project Bluebeam, yes. Project Bluebeam.
No, but what is the idea? They will create three-eye atlas in the sky for all of us to see?
That's basically what they're saying.
That's not possible technically. It's not. Let me tell you, try to do it yourself.
Oh no. I agree with you. I agree with what I'm saying. It could be something on the planet where they make it look like there are ships in the sky and stuff like that. You
can't do that because the Webb telescope is not on the planet, okay? The Webb telescope is 1.5 million kilometers away from Earth. How do you show the Webb telescope a fictitious object in the sky? How do you do that?
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
So you're right. You're right. 100%. That's why I don't buy it. I don't buy this being anything connected.
And there is also not just the Webb telescope, but also the Hubble Space Telescope gave us an image of this thing. So you have the Hubble Space Telescope, you have the Webb. They are far away from Earth. You can't do it. And not only you can't do it because you can't fool these telescopes, but you can't do it because they would look at whatever you produce from a different direction. And if it's nearby, then they will, you won't see it in the same direction. Like if you put it a million miles away from Earth, a million miles, okay? Then the Webb telescope will see differently than Earth-based. How can you do something a million miles from Earth? Now, so if you can come up with, I don't know, I'll put some satellite, fine. But this object that we are talking about is right now much farther away. It's, it was discovered at 4.5 times the Earth-Sun separation. That's huge.
So have you spoke to Jeremy Corbell? Have you spoke to Jeremy?
No,
right?
I didn't speak. He may have had something else in his mind. Has nothing to do with 3i Atlas. This has nothing to do because 3i again. This is a conspiracy theory. 3i Atlas was discovered by innocent amateurs that looked at the Atlas data, okay, and members of the Atlas team that, but by chance saw, oh wait, look, this in a crowded region of the sky where there are lots of stars. Here, there is something moving. Here is an interstellar object, and then it was verified by many more telescopes. This is the way science is done. It's not, you cannot orchestrate that because now, if you say they created fake, how can they create fake data that the Webb telescope is seeing, the Hubble Space Telescope is seeing, that everyone is, you can't do that. And the timing, again, the timing has nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. It's nothing to do with Jeremy Corbell. I'm sorry to say that, but Jeremy Corbell has no knowledge or relationship to scientific discoveries. He's not a scientist. This could not have been manufactured by anyone that Jeremy Corbell knows or thinks about. Nobody could have invented this. Jeremy Corbell thought about something else. This something else that maybe it's validated, maybe he knows something we don't know, maybe it's real. It's not 3i Atlas.
Okay. Thank you so much for clearing that up, mate. I appreciate that. Thank you. Go on, guys. Anything?
So I was just going to add, so basically the story was Corbell in Jan 2020 said they're going to tell us there's a fake alien craft coming towards Earth. That's what he said. And obviously, all the conspiracies the last week about you, people are saying you're part of Project Bluebeam. You're lying to us.
I didn't even know that this project exists. I just asked you. But my point is, if you think that I have that much power to affect what amateur astronomers do with a 0.5 meter telescope in Chile, and then the rest of the scientific community using the Webb telescope and the Hubble Space, if I have that power, I'm much more powerful than any human has ever been. I just cannot do that. I mean, there is no way even if I had $1 trillion in the bank, I wouldn't be able to orchestrate that because it's really a very difficult technical task to do that. All I did, if you want to know what I did, was look at the data that other people collected and say, oh, something is anomalous here. Maybe it could be a sign of technology. Maybe, and therefore we should get more data to figure it out. That's all I did. And has nothing to do with Corbell. I didn't even know that he said what he said. I don't know the context of what he said and why did he say. By the way, you should ask him. Has nothing to do with the scientific discovery of 3i Atlas. And we agree. Here again, he may be right about something else going on in the intelligence, in the Defense Department. Who knows? There might be something going on that he overheard or was told, and he's talking about that. But he's not talking about 3i Atlas, believe me, because there is no way to fake now the anomalies of 3i Atlas. Now, I could have kept my mouth shut, even if I recognize some anomalies. I could have said, no, it's a comet, forget about it, let's move on. That was my choice, and I could have said, forget about it. But would you be happier if we all thought that it's just a comet and not even notice the anomalies? I'm not sure. So the way I operate is, I'm not saying it's definitely technological. I'm not saying it's close to definitely being. I'm just saying it's a possibility we need to leave on the table and then examine the future data to figure it out. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not trying to distract anyone. Because let me put another argument here, which is within a month or two, it will be clear if it's a comet. Now, suppose it's a comet. That's it. That's what I was saying all along. If it's a comet, forget about it. So Jeremy Corbell was anticipating that someone will suspect the Three-Eye Atlas is technological, and then a month later it was realized that it's just a comet. Like, what are it doesn't affect the needle on any issue that you care about. Whether for 1 month we thought that it may not be a comet and then it was a comet. Like, who cares? Over that month of the summer where people have vacations, just 1 month they believe that it might be something else, and then after that month it turns out to be a comet. Like, what kind of a conspiracy is that? Like, for 1 month to affect people's vacations? Is that the issue?
Can I just say, to defend Jeremy Corbell a second, Jeremy's not said this. It's the internet, the conspiracy theorists have put them together. So I want to clarify. It's not Jeremy Corbell.
I'm trying to explain that this conspiracy idea or story makes no sense.
I totally agree. That's why I wanted to mention it.
If within a month we will find out that it's a comet, all that happened was that the summer month of of July, let's say, was we were discussing the possibility of something that is a comet being technological. That's all that happened, and after that we realized this. But by the way, that's the way science is. Just to give you an example, we don't know what most of the matter in the universe is. We call it dark matter. Okay, we still don't know. So when I started astrophysics 40 years ago, we didn't know what dark matter is, and there was a popular idea. It's actually a special type of particles that are massive and weakly interacting. That was the dominant idea in the scientific community for 40 years. Still, many people are claiming dark matter is maybe weakly interacting massive particles. That's not a conspiracy. People are saying that, and it's popular within. Now, we do experiments. We invested billions of dollars, didn't find weakly interacting massive particles. Was that a distraction of the public by the scientists? No. It was an idea that scientists had that was tested experimentally and was demonstrated not to work. And that happens all the time in science. So what I'm doing right now is saying, here is a possibility. Maybe it's technological, Three-Eye Atlas. It's a possibility. It's exactly the same point as with the dark matter. It's a possibility. We leave it on the table. We collect more data. We can figure out if it's right or wrong. If it's wrong, forget about it. There is no conspiracy about it because we are using data to decide. The beauty of science is you can ask any question you want. Just like a kid. You see some data, you ask a question. There shouldn't be no censorship on asking a question. And by the way, a lot of my colleagues are censoring. They're telling me not to ask this question. And I say, why? Questions are legitimate. I'm not saying any, I will ask this question. The method of science is to answer the questions using data. So let's ask. If we don't ask the question, we will not seek the data.
Can I ask a question very quickly?
I'm going to ask the same one, but yeah, go on, you do it.
Oh, sorry, mate. Okay, so if you found out, or other astronomers or whoever found out this could be something of alien origin, something elsewhere, would you be allowed to tell us that information, or would it be under wraps?
Of course. Well, the point is, it's not. You see, the scientific community is all over the world. There is no authority, even if one government tries to censor it, there is no authority that can stop scientists from talking about it. It's just impossible because they are observing it with their telescopes, and unless you shut down all the So what happened with Galileo was that he was the only one. He had his telescope. They put him in house arrest. They suppressed the information. But imagine, thousands of Galileos having their telescopes in different countries. The Vatican would not be able to cope with that. And that's why eventually the Vatican changed their view. So if you want to suppress some information, you can do it on a small scale. You can't do it all across the globe. And anyone can buy a 0.5 meter telescope. So that, there is no way to avoid the conclusion. Like if it behaves like a spaceship, doesn't have any cometary tail, someone will buy a telescope, I don't know where, in some remote island, and see that there is no cometary tail, and we'll write about it. Like, you can't suppress that information. So my point is that's the beauty. It's the beauty of science. And by the way, whatever we find about objects that come from outside the solar system should be shared with all humans. Because the way we split territories on Earth has nothing to do with the outside universe. It makes no sense for us to limit the information. I think any scientific information about what lies beyond the solar system, whether we are alone or not, should be shared.
Yeah. So if governments and stuff, like, if it does become a situation like this, hypothetically, Would they be more worried about religion kind of collapsing on itself and sending?
I don't think religion is an issue, by the way. By the way, I also wrote a paper a week ago talking about the fact that humans will not panic. I'm not sure that there will be panic. But with religions, you know, I had a visit of a group of people from an organization called Christianity Today about half a year ago. And they came to me and asked me, you know, if we discover extraterrestrials, how would that affect our religious beliefs? And what I said is, I have 2 daughters. And when the second one was born, it didn't take away the love that I have for the first one. And so thinking that God can attend only to one civilization, ours, is like thinking that a parent can only attend to one child. That's very demeaning. Now, when I mentioned it to them, they agreed. And they thought that, yes, it wouldn't affect our religious beliefs. You know, we may have siblings. That's my point. I mean, you can be jealous of siblings that are more successful than you are. So if we see like another civilization that is building much better rockets than Elon Musk, we might be jealous. But, you know, that always happens among siblings. My point is, if you believe that there is a parent, like a creator or a God, there could be many thousands of civilizations that existed in the Milky Way galaxy over the past few billion years. The other thing to keep in mind, we came late to the party. The sun formed in the last 1/3 of cosmic history. And when you ask, where is everybody, you know, it's just like asking, there were 100 billion people that lived on Earth, okay? Where is everybody? Today, there are only 8 billion. Where are the rest? They died, okay? So it's quite likely that most civilizations that lived billions of years ago in the Milky Way galaxy died by now. But if they sent out technological gadgets, you know, spacecraft, whatever, that are functional, we can do space archaeology, basically interstellar archaeology, and find whatever they produced, even if they're dead. It's just like finding a package in your mailbox from a person that is not alive anymore.
I love that analogy. That's amazing. So I appreciate that so much. Avi, how are you doing for time? Are you okay?
I'm okay. If there are more questions, maybe for another 15 minutes or so.
Lovely, yeah. I've just got to sort my dog out. If you guys want to ask him some questions.
I'll go here through the comments section. Let's have a look here. Oh, about the ocean stuff, Avi, you found these spherical little objects, and I think you was involved in the Baltic Sea anomaly, because I do speak to Dennis Asberg as well. Any updates on anything going on there?
So yeah, we went to retrieve materials from the first interstellar meteor, an object that is 0.5 meter in size that collided with Earth in 2014, and the fireball that it created as a result of its friction with air was documented by US government satellites. And because that's checking for ballistic missiles, as you know, when Iran launched a lot of missiles recently, they were all noticed by the array of satellites that the US government has in space. And every now and then an object collides with Earth and burns up, and then these satellites can see it, but they can say that it has no significance for national security. So they release through NASA, through the Jet Propulsion Lab, they release the data in a catalog. And that's where I found this object together with my student. We went to the place where it landed in the Pacific Ocean to retrieve materials from the bottom of the Pacific. So we collected materials, we brought it back to Harvard University, and my colleague Stein Jacobson has a laboratory to analyze with the best instruments. We found that about 10% of the tiny droplets that were molten from some explosive event that we found on the ocean floor, about 10% of them have a chemical composition that is different from solar system materials that you often find. And now we are analyzing the isotopes. That's what I was talking about before. So the isotopes could tell us more clearly if the material came from outside the solar system or not. But we really want to go back again to the same place with an expedition to find bigger pieces. and it will cost $6.5 million, and we are waiting for someone to donate.
Wow, that's a lot of money, that, isn't it?
It's a lot of money.
Quite a lot.
But you will be able to see the previous expedition in a Netflix documentary that will come out in early 2026. So everyone around the world will be able to see this amazing project that I went to, and also some other details, because they followed me for 3 years now, the Netflix filming crew. Actually, the director sat in my office, and in the last interview that he had with me, he asked, we probably changed the way you behave as a result of the fact that we are following you everywhere. And I said, no, don't praise yourself. I mean, you're not that significant. You're just a fly on the wall. I don't really care about you. Now, they will probably use 1% of the footage that they made, but I hope that it will be an exciting 1%. I have no say as to what they will show and how good it will be, but I think, given that they will use 1%, it will probably be very good.
Oh, mate, amazing. We've got a few more questions. So we've got a lot more people in here tuning into you right now, and we just need to kind of update people. Could you let us know in bullet points the observables that you see on 3i Atlas as to the potential hypothesis of this could be intelligent?
Well, first, if we are seeing the reflection of sunlight from a solid object, it has to be 20 kilometers in diameter. That's much more material than the interstellar space can supply in a decade. It can supply it in 10,000 years if you just deliver all the interstellar rocky material. But the package that we received is so big that there is not enough material to give it once a decade. And the duration of the survey was 5 years or so with the Atlas telescope. The second issue has to do with the trajectory, which is aligned with the orbital plane of the planets, the ecliptic plane of the planets, and within 5 degrees, 1 in 500 chance of that happening, 0.2%, and 1 in 20,000 chance that if you take this trajectory and say, that is the trajectory, I just changed the arrival time of the object, then what you find is only 1 in 20,000 arrival times will bring the object so close to Jupiter, Mars, and Venus as it does in reality. It comes really close to all 3 of them. So the time was fine-tuned, selected exactly to do that with a chance of 1 in 20,000. And then the object will be on the opposite side of the sun when it comes closest to us, so we can't see it. That may have been for a purpose, because it might break and maneuver at that point, and that's why I'm saying let's watch it. Actually, another thing which is really important that I should mention is that because it comes so close to Jupiter, I suggested using the Juno spacecraft to observe it and probe it by bringing Juno closer to it. So if we give Juno a push in September, mid-September 2025, it will get close to it in the middle of March 2026, and that's when 3i Atlas passes near Jupiter, unless it will do a maneuver and come closer to us. I mean, that will be alarming, of course.
Mate, I'd be excited. I would. I'd quit job. I'd quit work. I'd be like.
Well, let me tell you why I'm interested in a visit, and that is if you go to let's say you go to a party and you see the people in the party behaving in ways that are boring or not upsetting, not the way you like them to behave. What you would often do is look through the window to check if there is any new incomer, any new visitor incoming person to the party, so that it will improve the situation. And right now, if you just check the news on Earth, that doesn't make me very happy. In fact, one way not to get gray hair is not to read the news. You know that.
Too late for that.
I'm just looking for a visitor to make things better. Like maybe that will change everything, because it will change our priorities. Instead of fighting each other, engaging in conflicts, we'll suddenly look up and see something else. And then realize, wait a minute, we are all in the same boat. We should behave better with each other.
This is the one thing that I'm saying about this whole hostile stuff that gets pushed around. If something as intelligent as people are saying that exists, they would have wiped us out many years ago, right? If these things do exist, right? But here we are today, still talking and enjoying our time.
Okay, so there is one caveat to what the narrative you mentioned, and that is the dark forest hypothesis, which was a solution to Fermi's paradox, in which the aliens are around, but that they're silent because they're worried about predators, and that's what you do in a dark forest. You don't know who may threaten your existence. Okay, so you stay quiet in a dark forest. That's a good way to survive. They learned it through experience, probably. And if they're around, they watch us because we've been careless. We are broadcasting all the time, and so they realize that we are getting technologically advanced. And then at some point, maybe as we embark on AI and so forth, at some point they realize we might be a threat to them. So at that point, they will do a reconnaissance mission and come and check out. So that's the caveat. Even, they could be hostile. It could be a Trojan horse. Even if it looks friendly, you have to be careful. But I agree with you that we keep, focusing on ourselves. We think that we are extremely important. That's what the Vatican, we are at the center of the universe. And that anyone that comes to our backyard must be looking for us. On the other hand, maybe they're looking for something else, like it has nothing to do with us. Just think about ants in the cracks of a pavement. When a person passes by, the person can step on them, doesn't care. That, it's not the actual story. And we keep thinking about ourselves, but it might well be that they arrive here for a completely different reason.
I kind of go to the analogy a little bit, like with the technology that we've been let loose with, like AI, nuclear weaponry. It's like we've given a baby a nuclear bomb and all this technology, and we don't know what to do with it. So they've probably gone, hang on a minute, what are they doing? Like, they shouldn't have that. You know what I mean? Like, wave your finger.
By the way, it's really interesting. If it turns out that they visit periodically the Earth, okay? So, for example, maybe they did it in the past, maybe 66 million years ago. They saw the dinosaurs, said, that's not the kind of Earth we want. So they arranged for an impact on Earth, and we keep saying, oh, that was a rock. But it was not a rock, it was a designed projectile, And so they reset the life on Earth every now and then when they don't like what they see. That could happen. If it happened in the past, it could happen. We definitely know that the Earth went through catastrophic events. So when people say, just for the young people in the audience, people say, oh, we have to protect the Earth. We have to make sure the Earth survives. Don't say that. What you want to protect is humanity, okay? What you want to preserve is humanity. The Earth would survive irrespective of what humans do, okay? The Earth survived catastrophe. If you just go back in time, hundreds of millions of years. And by the way, 200 million years is nothing. It's 5% of the history of Earth. 5%, nothing. You just go back hundreds of millions of years. You will find catastrophes that would wipe up everything that you have right now on Earth. So don't protect the Earth. The Earth went through a lot of trauma and survived it. What we see now is a result of all these traumas. What you're protecting is humanity. Now, the only thing that the Earth would not survive is 7.6 billion years ago, billion years into the future. Okay, just keep your, put it on your calendar. In 7.6 billion years, the sun will consume its nuclear fuel. It will finish its life.
Yeah.
And then it will expand. And it's quite possible that it will expand and engulf the Earth. So when that happens, first thing that will happen is, the moon orbits the Earth. And it was a piece of the Earth that was kicked out as a result of an impact on Earth. The moon will have friction on the envelope of the sun at that time. And because of that, it will grind down its orbit very quickly and collide with the Earth. The moon will come back to Earth. Keep that in mind. When the sun will engulf both of us, the moon will come back and collide with Earth and join the Earth. And then after that, the Earth itself will spiral in to the core of the sun and vaporize. That will be the death of the Earth.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I mean, it's like you say, like, again, if everyone in this planet just decides to work together and expand in the cosmos, we could, you know.
We can survive. We can survive. Yeah.
100%. Mate, absolutely amazing. I appreciate you being here, mate, and spending the time with us. You've been such a great guest on our show. Guys, is there anything else you want to talk to Avi about?
No, I think he's answered all the questions. I think he's gone into a few conspiracies that he doesn't usually go into, which is great as well.
I'm not saying that conspiracies might be are always wrong. Some of them are probably correct, but to figure out which one is correct, you have to get data.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Very true. Avi, is there anything you want to tell us about, like socials you have? Is there any books or anything uncovered?
So I invite everyone who is listening to check medium.com, Avi Loeb at medium.com, and that's where I put essays every day or two, and you can sort of read about the things that I talked about. You can even subscribe for free and get the email notification every time a new one comes along. I have 60,000 followers on that. And otherwise, there are scientific papers that I write, and my books. You know, currently I'm writing a book about the expedition, nothing to do with 3i Atlas, just the expedition. And there would be the Netflix documentary, hopefully coming out in early 2026. There are some things that are ongoing and very exciting. I cannot talk about right now, but hopefully you'll hear about it in the coming months. So stay tuned, because there are still things in the bag that are not public yet.
Will we get a sneak peek preview secretly?
No.
No. No.
No, I'll tell you why. It's because it's not up to me. And it's not about data, by the way. It's not about UAPs or anything. It has to do with ongoing work being done, and it's not up to me as to when to make it public. That's all.
Yeah, fantastic. Mate, again, thank you so much for being here, Avi. I hope we get to talk at some point again, and good luck on all of your research and your other stuff that you've got down the line. I hope it goes fantastically for you.
Are you on TikTok, Avi?
No, I'm not. I don't have any social media.
Why can't you come on TikTok and I can help my 250,000 followers go and follow you? So why can't we do that? Get an Avi TikTok.
I'll tell you why, because my wife, about 15 years ago, my wife said, I don't want you to be on social media. And now it was, if you think about it, she's quite wise, because she anticipated, all the problems that are caused by social media, where, there is so much toxicity there. But I agree with you that I could have had a bigger platform if I were to join, and maybe at some point she will allow me to do that. I still respect her, and I follow what she asks me. But maybe at some point I'll do it. One message I wanted to give all the young people in the audience is stay young, okay? Never pretend to be the adults in the room. I mean, it's terrible. The message that you often get from other adults in the room is, oh, don't think outside the box. Don't deviate from the beaten path. Always stay within, and that is a message given by herders to keep the herd in a tight pack, and I say, don't do that. I mean, you have a privilege of asking questions and thinking differently than anyone else. And don't give up that privilege. The strange thing is, people in academia, the academia was supposed to be blue sky. You can think about anything you want, free speech, you can say whatever you want. And you would say, okay, well, then I can ask questions like, is 3i Atlas alien technology? That's the question that I'm supposed to ask. But no, immediately, Chris Lintott from Oxford would say, it's nonsense on stilts. And it's an insult to anyone that is working on 3i Atlas. And I say, why is that? Asking a question is an insult? Actually, the scientific method is all about asking questions, then answering them with data. So what I'm saying is, those who pretend to be scientists are not always following the scientific method. They very often are gatekeepers that want to keep the herd very tight. They discourage young people from innovating. And to me, that is a terrible message, because it suppresses innovation in science, and the public loses trust in science. My point is the public would believe in science if scientists were completely transparent. Okay, there are some ideas floating around. We don't know which one is right. Let's figure it out. It's fun. Let's figure it out. But we should admit that the ideas are not clear. We should allow for the Wuhan lab leak hypothesis to exist together with a wet market. We should not suppress one possibility because we don't like it. That is anti-science, actually. So my message to young people is don't surrender to that, because I survived. I had a very successful scientific career, and I'm not willing to give up on that wonder, on that curiosity, because that's what makes science fun.
You need multiple different aspects and sort of viewpoints on reality to kind of, sometimes those information from the outside perspective can bring something down the middle.
That's the only way to make discoveries, because if you know in advance the answer, what's the point? You're not doing anything interesting.
Mate, brilliant. Appreciate you so much, mate. So thank you so much. Like I say, when I upload stuff to YouTube and get socials, I'll send you a link as well. If you want to watch it back, you're more than welcome. And again, guys, check Avi's blog out. Is it a blog or is it a paper?
It's sort of a blog. It's a list of essays that you find on medium.com under my name, and you can subscribe.
There you go.
Great stuff.
There we go. Right, mate. Get yourself a cup of tea or a coffee, whatever you like, and chill out, mate. We thank you so much for being on this show, man. You're amazing. And hopefully we get to see you again soon with more information that you found.
And get on TikTok. Sit down with your missus and tell her you want to go on TikTok.
Exactly.
Okay, I'll speak with my wife and I'll give her your message. Thank you.
We can help you. We can help you on this app. Don't worry.
If she allows it, I'll do it.
Good man.
Okay.
See you later, Avi.
Bye-bye.
See you later.